Grillidae already here, it looks like, or we're here, and we'll see how it goes. What else is here? Trying to take a look at these garters. Getting these. Look at this female. She seems to be expanding quite a bit. So I think what we're getting, we have here a garter who's going to be producing babies pretty soon. You can see Rufus on the left climbing up. And there's Erica. Hello, round one. I don't blame you. They're a lot of fun. And Jennifer, hello, and welcome. I'm going to see if I can just maneuver the camera a little bit here, the iPad, whatever, so that we can get a little bit closer look at what's going on. Maybe that'll help. I'll probably move it around a couple of times. Hopefully it won't be too loud, so that we can get a good look at them. They're so curious, and they see me moving around and want to kind of check out what I'm doing. So, Frank the Tank in the house as well. And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Morelia. I've had a lot of fun with the setup, and I enjoy bioactives, of course, and some of the plants are doing well, like the fern over there. All the pothos is not actually in the vivarium itself, it's growing behind it, but that's kind of fun. It's coming out of one of my aquariums, and oh, is she going to take a drink? Maybe Ruby's going to take a drink, I don't know. Let's see. There's Ashley, hello, and Schonmeister. Oh, Daniel Lopez too. So Newt, the baby snakes sign says, if you see baby snakes, please leave the door closed and contact me, smiley face. Because I just want to be prepared if I'm at work or something and not in the house, and somebody comes in here to see a dozen baby snakes zipping around and they're not sure what to do. I want them to have a plan. So, and oh, there's Sandy, welcome, and Richard of the Tarantula Collective, thank you, I appreciate it. It's been fun. I'm thinking of redoing the background next time the snakes go into brumation, completely redoing the background, like building a textured background with terrace stuff and little places for plants to grow and all that kind of stuff. But I'm having fun with it now. And thank you, Jeff, as well. So Sean, you got a baby garter snake in your house already? I'm wondering if it's if it emerged from brumation. I mean, it partly depends on where you live and the climate where you live. If it's warm enough, they might be giving birth earlier. But there are also garters that wake up. They're born fairly late in the season and then brumate young. So that's a possibility too. Could be something like that. So, Mr. and Mrs. Morelia, I have worked with some other snakes. As far as my own snakes that I've had, I've only had a corn snake who just shed, by the way, just today. I just looked over to the other side of the room and saw it here. This is the corn snake shed that just popped out. Maybe we'll take the corn snake out for a second and he can see how he's looking. Oh, looking nice and shiny. Yeah, looking pretty. Let's take out the corn snake. So I have worked with others in an educational collection, worked with boas and ball pythons, with some king snakes, with, my favorite was an eastern indigo snake in that collection. Really loved it. This is our hypomelanistic corn snake that just shed. And I don't know if the light is doing him justice particularly. He's a nice, pretty snake. But as far as my own snakes, I've only had these, but worked with some of those others. And the indigo snake, like I said, eastern indigo snake was just marvelous. So yeah, Sean, that makes sense that it just emerged. And Frank the Tank, are you near one of the hibernaculae of the garter snakes? Evie, hello. Eileen, hi. And Jeff, I do like the YouTube channel Snake Discovery. They do a lot of fun stuff. They actually kind of helped inspire me to get garters as well as Clint's reptiles. They both sort of did that. So Ashley, you have a hypomelanistic corn like this one? Awesome. I think maybe we've talked about that at some point. So, yeah. Yeah, Frank the Tank. I remember seeing the Snake Discovery did an isopod unboxing of $1,000. I've never done one that big myself. But I think it would be cool to watch. So, favorite brand of heat lamp? You know, I don't actually know if I have a favorite brand. I'm still kind of just trying different ones and seeing what we get. Seeing what I like, I guess. I've used quite a few over the years, but I don't know that I really have a favorite. Good question. And thank you, Sean. We got 20 in the house, and if you want to drop a like there, we can do a like spike. That'd be cool. Be fun. And Theropod Hunter. Hello. Nucci, I love it. 6 years old. Awesome. Yeah, our garter snake is a lot younger than that. I think our corn snake, our garter snakes are younger than that too. Our corn snake is about 3.5 or 4 or something like that. I should check. I love that name. So Erica, do garters musk on you? These don't. I have been musked on by wild garters more than once, but these were born in captivity and they have never once musked on me. And you know, I can't say that that's always the case with captive bred garters, but I do think they tend to be less likely to do it. And so, yeah, I count myself lucky that they don't musk on me because it's not a pleasant odor, to say the least. But sometimes when they're really getting a little wild and squirrely, they'll whip their tail around a little bit, kind of like they were going to musk, but they don't. They absolutely have never done it, which I appreciate greatly. Yeah, Theropod Hunter, everything's going pretty well. Anyone try Exoterra's Stone Desert? I've never used that. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that video and see what they got. See what Snake Discovery got isopod-wise. I'm hoping that because they're making more videos about isopods, my videos will show up in the search and, you know, the suggested videos next to them, and I'll get a few more views of my isopod videos. That'd be nice. That happened a number of years ago with another popular YouTuber who did an isopod video, and that kind of gave me a leg up. So, and Sandy, evening at my place. Well, it's 5:37 p.m. right now, and in my place. These snakes are not nocturnal. They tend to be really active during the day. They'll be active into the evening hours too, but the daytime is their most active time. They're very diurnal. They're constantly basking up here in the light. They're constantly going around their enclosure. It's pretty cool. They're very, very active. Oh, so you got musked on today, Sean. You had the honor. It's not so bad, especially with a baby. The adults are a little messier, but yeah, baby's not so bad. Put it back outside, probably good. It might actually be one of the same species you can find around here. We got a couple of garter snakes. We have the valley garters and the wandering garters in my state, I believe. And since you're in New Mexico, might be the same one. Let's see. So I'm going to pull up questions for Patreon because I see that Erica has a question that it's very closely related to this question. So if I answer the Patreon questions, I'll probably end up answering Erica's question as well. Kind of two questions with one stone, so to speak. There's a couple of different questions here. So I'm going to hit, I think, Sandy's question about how many garters would thrive in a 40-gallon enclosure and a 75-gallon enclosure. I would say this is a 40-gallon enclosure here, a 40-gallon breeder. And I have 3 garters in here, 2 males and a female. And I would say it depends on a lot of factors. One of the factors is what type of garter you have, because, you know, there are a lot of different species. Some of them remain quite small. Like well, there are several species that remain quite small. I think the Butler's garter snake stays small. There are others that do. And then there's some that get quite large, up to about 6 feet. And there's only 1 or 2 species that get that big, but there's everything in between, garter-wise. So it's not uncommon for many garters to get to 3, 3.5, 4 feet long, the larger females, and the males are often quite smaller, like you can see here. You can see at least parts of every of the 3 garters in the shot, and the males are much smaller than the females. I would say you could probably do 3 or 4 garters in here. I've got 3 in here. You could probably do 4 in this 40-gallon breeder just fine. There's, plenty of places for them to move around and stretch out. So it works. It works pretty well for them. In a 75, you could probably do, you wouldn't hurt to put all of these in a 75. They'd use it all. But you could probably put safely a couple more, do 5 or 6 in a setup like that, especially if you're a little male heavy, or if you just do males since they're smaller. You could probably get away with that just fine. And I think it does, depend on a lot of things too. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to look back at Erica's question and make sure that I covered that, because I think I covered Sandy's. So I would say don't get any smaller than a 20-gallon long for one garter, especially if it's a male. That would be fine. With a female, you might want to go a little bit bigger, but no smaller than a 20-gallon long, I'd say. And I'd say if you got a 20-gallon long, and then you add approximately 10 gallons per snake after that, you're somewhere along the right lines, which matches with my 3 or 4 for a 40-gallon breeder. So hopefully that helps for Sandy and Erica. So Newt wanted to know how the Armadillidium klugi are doing in there. Quite well. They are breeding pretty well. Do you want to see if I can get a shot of the Armadillidium klugi, and then we'll go back and do some more Patreon questions? Let's try it. Okay. Sometimes when I lift up the bark, this question, this is actually going to relate to the enrichment question that Sandy asked. I'm going to move this guy. Oh, sorry. Nope. Startled him a little bit. That was not the right way to go about that. I'm sorry. It's not the way. They're usually quite calm and chill. You can see there's a lot down. There's a ton down in the sphagnum moss, but you can see there's a lot of klugi on there too. Various sizes, including babies. So they're doing well in there. And what I'm doing now relates to enrichment, because another question that Sandy had, I don't want to put that right on you guys. I'm going to wait till you move out of the way. But we can watch them crawl around for a minute. And then I'll talk about the question about enrichment that Sandy asked in the Patreon questions. What can be done for enrichment for garters? Well, one thing is to provide them with a lot of surfaces and move that around a little bit. Don't completely build their enclosure from the ground up all the time, because they like to have their hiding places. I don't move this large piece of cork bark all that often, because both the isopods and the snakes need a nice place to hang out. So I moved it for the purposes of this, but I try not to move it too often, because they like to hide out under there. It's a good shedding place. It's a good place to stay moist, because I moisten the ferns, and so it stays a little bit damper down there. And so it's a hydration station for the isopods, and it's also a good place to shed for the snakes. So anyway, places like that, it's good for those to be more static. But as far as the top pieces of cork bark, I move those around every once in a while, move sticks around. You can put different things in there. You can, like this tube, they like this cork tube, and they use it as a place to hide and crawl through and so on. But if I move that, or I replace it with a different one, that's one way you can do enrichment. Is just move around their decor a little bit, switch it up. That keeps them interested in exploring. You can also, of course, let them explore outside of their enclosure, which they like to do a lot. And another thing that I haven't done, because I have 3 garters that I have to feed together, which can be tricky. If you're feeding them together in the same enclosure, generally I take one out and feed it a little bit outside of the enclosure, so they don't fight over food. But if I just had one garter in here, I would, which I would prefer not to do because they're so social. They are probably the best snake for cohabbing. But I would say that if I just had one, I might do puzzle feeders for their food. You can do puzzle feeders for snakes, and that might be a good way to go. I would say something like that. Hopefully that helped. So, Erica, I hope that helped. And Sandy, do they eat the isopods? They don't. Garter snakes are not, they don't go after things like that so much. I've heard of garter snakes eating grasshoppers and things like that, but they can't really digest chitin. So eating things like isopods and insects is not great. There are snakes that do and can handle that. I don't know if you can see that she's just crawling right up me. She coming to see if I have a snack for her. I might just pick her up here and see if we can get a closer shot of her. It's kind of shadowy, isn't it? She is starting to show some scale spread if I can get that to focus. She's definitely starting to. She's not really spready yet, but she's getting there. Here, I'm going to move the camera a little bit as I put her back. Let's see. We can watch them crawl about. So yeah. Those are some things that I would do for enrichment. And Ashley N has a question about, from Patreon, has a question about, do garter snakes ever get tangled while mating, meaning they would need human aid to unravel them, or this is a wildlife urban legend? Well, I did a little bit of research on this because I had already known about the hibernaculae and how they wake up and they participate in the breeding balls where you get dozens or more snakes, all kind of males trying to compete for the chance to mate with a female, right? And so that is a thing, I knew that, but I read about it a little bit more to see if there were any evidence of them actually getting tangled. And I did find that a male garter will sometimes, according to the source that I read, a male garter will sometimes attempt to reduce the oxygen that the female has access to by basically exhaling right in front of her face, so that she will lose energy and have less ability to escape from her, which is weird. And I want to read more about that to confirm if that's the case or not. And that sometimes a female can get, if she is deprived of oxygen in this big breeding ball and with stuff like that going on, she can in extreme cases die. And I'm wondering if that is connected, if these breeding balls, first of all, are connected to this idea of getting tangled. And then if further, this idea of the female occasionally running low on oxygen, having issues because of that, could also be related to it. So I don't know what the truth is, but I've looked into that a little bit, and that's what I was able to discover. So, sorry, I'm so far behind on the stream here. I don't remember how much I got this for. I got it second hand, had to repair part of it, but it wasn't that much. It was a lot cheaper than a... Oh, Eileen, that is a great question. If Ruby becomes gravid, will you know who the father is? Not exactly, because it is possible for garters to have more than one father per group of young. I got Rufus is taken off here, so I'm going to put him back in. I think they're all looking for a snack here. And I do have a snack available for them soon. I might feed them a couple of live earthworms on the screen here. But yeah, it's possible for a garter. Genetic analysis has been done on the clutches, or the clutters, as they're sometimes called, because they're not eggs when they're born. And so the cross between clutter and litter is sometimes referred to as a clutter of garter snakes, which I think is kind of fun. They can have more than one father. So that's kind of fun. Okay. If you give garters a large water bowl, will they swim? They will. They don't necessarily need to. Look at all three of them just hanging out. Love that. They're so fun. They will swim. They're good swimmers. They don't necessarily need a water bottle, a large water feature to thrive, and it can be hard to maintain in an enclosure like this. You can end up making it hard for them to dry off if you're not careful. And if that is the case, they can get blisters and sores and have big issues. So it's usually safer in a captive situation like this not to give them a large pool, but if you can offer one in a way where they can dry out, then that's great. I mean, I think that would be great. I would love to do that in a really large enclosure, say a enclosure 2 or 3 times this long, maybe the same dimensions except for just longer, and then make a pool on one side so that make sure they can really dry out when they need to. So, oh, Theropod Hunter got some P. ornatus yellow dot. Fun species. And sorry to hear that, Jeff. Snakes are so cool. They're so calming, and yesterday I had a headache. Went and picked up one of my snakes and just, I think it was Rufus, for a few minutes, and my headache started going away right away. They're very calming and fun that way. And Grillidae, yeah, the glass enclosures, especially the well-ventilated ones like this one, can be good that way. Let's see. Should I offer them a couple worms and see how they do? I'm sure they're going to eat them. I need to be careful so they don't accidentally eat each other, because they'll get that way. They get so crazy when it comes to worms. I'm just going to pick one up and offer a worm outside of the enclosure. It's the only real safe way to do it. I'll just pick this guy up and see if I can focus on camera. You want this? You do want this. I know you do. Ooh, look at that. It's going to eat it like spaghetti. Sorry about the lighting. It's not perfect right here. Let's see if I can get the focus a little bit better. Maybe the lighting. Play with that a little bit. But there he goes. Having a bit of dinner. Yeah, I'm fortunate that my wife will let me have snakes. She will not appreciate things like tarantulas in the house. She doesn't want that at all. But she doesn't mind snakes at all. She likes them. I am fortunate in that regard. And let's see. Animals are the best medicine. I agree heartily. Ashley, it's hard to beat that. That is for sure. Couple more worms, anybody? Who wants a worm or two? You want some worms? I bet you do. There she goes. You just got to make sure he doesn't, get involved when they're eating the worms. There. Now they're not going to have trouble. Okay. And Eileen, good question. I will say generally the cleanup crew is sufficient, but it depends on where the droppings are deposited. Sometimes if there's spots on the cork bark that they can't reach, then they don't clean up that and I have to clean it up. If it gets down onto the actual substrate, it's usually perfectly fine. To be honest, they're usually pretty good about it. So that is my conclusion that I have reached after having done this for about a year in a bioactive enclosure. Do you want a worm? I do apologize. The focus is just. Oh, you bit me instead of the food. That's not the place you go. There you go. And Ruby, I'm going to put you down because I don't want you getting into that. Sorry, guys. I had to move the snakes a little bit so they didn't get into each other too much. They really love those worms. Okay. Therapy snakes. How that would go over in a nursing home. Good question. I think they should be more popular in such places. I really do. CS, just watched your videos with Clint again. Oh, no, that's not a worm, that's my thumb. Screech owl, tailless whip scorpion, and hissing cockroaches. Oh, and have you seen the blue death feigning beetle one that we just did? CS? We just, he released that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's the newest one that we've done that's out. We've also done several more since then, quite recently in fact. So keep your eyes peeled for more collaborations with Clint's Reptiles. I've got one coming out. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be, but it'll be pretty soon. I'm editing that one right now, and then he's going to be releasing some as well. So it's really, really fun collaborating with Clint and Jason and Michelle. They are great. They're really fun people to hang out with. The reptile room is incredible. I really enjoy it. So I won't spoil it by telling you what exactly we are going to be, what you'll see in those videos, but they're coming soon. I don't know his schedule, to be honest, exactly when he's going to be releasing his either, so just keep your eyes open. Oh, Cody, awesome. Hopefully you'll get those snakes someday. Oh, yes, and I did enjoy the stream with Kyle. That was great. I really learned a lot there, too. And thank you, Cullen. Yeah, the food fights. I had one food fight with these guys, and that's why I'm trying to be really careful to keep them separate from each other. When they were little, they each started on one side of a worm, and that was, had to break the worm in half, and it was gross. So, not to mention dangerous. I was more worried about the potential swallowing your buddy factor. So, I have a spot in my yard that is far away from other yards. We have a large yard. Far away from other yards. We don't use pesticides on our grass at all, or our trees, or in our garden like that. So I feel pretty comfortable using them, and that is what I do. Woo! He just kind of jumped at that, didn't he? Just make sure the other snakes stay away until he swallowed it. Houdini does love his worms. They're all pretty hungry. Right after this, I have some pinkies I'm going to feed them. I don't really want to feed them pinkies on the air because YouTube doesn't like that. But and Lucas, thank you. I'm glad you appreciated the video about brumation. It's been a cool experience to see how effective that was in my setup. Trying to figure out a setup that would work, and it did, and that they really got the snakes primed for breeding. They did nothing but mate for about 3 weeks, so they've kind of calmed down on that. So I'm assuming that means they got the job done. And yeah, the blue death feigning beetles. I've only produced a couple of adults so far. I've produced lots and lots of larvae, only a couple of adults. I'm hoping to get to the point where I can produce lots of adults, but I'm not quite there yet. But when I do, I will definitely let you know. And thank you, Cody. I really appreciate that. I love Clint's channel, so that's high praise to be put on the same line as Clint's. He's got an amazing channel, amazing skills, amazing team. And Scientia Azie, good evening. Oh, backyard bug shorts, love it. Earthworms are intense for them. Do you have any other favorite foods? Basically, earthworms and pinkies are their staples. I've fed them some other things. They like Reptilinks a lot, and I need to get some more Reptilinks. I've been out for a while. They like the Reptilinks a lot. And what's the other one that I've given them? Tilapia. They're not huge fans of that. And Theropod Hunter. I actually don't know Lethoceras well. I'm trying to remember what that is, even the genus, so I definitely don't have any tips on that. I wish I did. Cloud 9.5, been a while. Good to see you. Giant African water bug. Okay, don't know that one. So Sandy Sizemore, are the red-sided garters the only ones unavailable? Let's see. Not quite sure I understand. Is there a typo in there, or I think I might miss something there. I might have missed something there, Sandy. So let me know. I want to make sure I understand your question so I can answer it correctly. Or meaning they're the only ones that I'm going to have available? Just kind of guessing. So handle S, Armadillidium maculatum chocolate or Armadillidium granulatum, completely torn on who to order for my first isopod. I would get the zebras, and though the chocolates are not necessarily my favorite, I think they're all awesome. They're going to be a little bit more active. The granulatum are going to get bigger, definitely, but the zebras are going to be a little more active, well, probably a lot more. Pattern-wise, they're going to be more striking, although the chocolates have a little less contrast. But that's what I would do. I'd go with the zebras. And I've had granulatum. I don't currently have any now, and they're not too difficult to take care of. They're pretty undemanding, and they're big, which is impressive. So those are cool too. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Sandy. Okay, got it. Okay, so the red-sided garters, there are some closely related types of garters that come from similar areas in California. So there's the California red-sided garter. This is not the California red-sided garter. This is Thamnophis sertalis parietalis, the red-sided garter, different subspecies than the California red-sided garter. Same species, it's Thamnophis sertalis, but this is Thamnophis sertalis parietalis. The other one is Thamnophis sertalis infernalis. That subspecies is legal to own in most places and is bred in captivity widely. It's not a problem to keep that. But there is another one called the San Francisco garter, and I don't recall the subspecies on that one at the moment. Someone can look it up for me, maybe, the San Francisco garter snake. That one is very protected, and I don't believe that it can legally be kept in captivity at all. And it looks quite a bit different. It's very, very colorful as well. The California red-sided garter is one of the most colorful garters. These have red on them, but those are just like vivid, big splotches of red in the California red-sided garters. And it depends on the locality too, because there are quite a few localities from different counties and stuff of the California red-sided garters, but many of them are extremely vivid. But the San Francisco garter has solid stripes, the solid stripe along the back, and then two solid stripes, lateral stripes that are intensely colored, and some of the most colorful garters out there for sure, and those are the illegal ones. You climbing right up my arm again? You do that, don't you? You love that. So, yeah. So I hope that clears that up a little bit. Great question. Backyard bug sorts, you have black garter snakes. The melanistic garters are among my favorites too. Red-sided garters, especially the California red-sided garters and the melanistic garters are like my top favorites of garter snakes. I want to own some of both of those. There are some species of garters, there's not a black species, but there are melanistic, high incidences of melanistic garters in some localities, wild, and then there are cultivated melanistic garters. I've seen them in real life. I've never kept one. I would love to. Okay. Musk turtles, I actually love musk turtles, and I think it would be really cool to keep. That's awesome, Jeff. Frank the Tank, yeah. Let's see if we can get those gold Bulgaria going. Yeah, it's not uncommon, Scientia Asiae, to have to feed the garters live fish. You can do it. A lot of people feed them goldfish, which is not terribly good for them as a steady diet. It's okay once in a while if the goldfish are healthy. But if you do it too often, they will have neurological problems because of the thiaminase in the goldfish destroys thiamine, which is one of the essential vitamin Bs, and that will, over time, cause neurological issues, vitamin B deficiencies. So, but it's fine if it's a fish that is thiaminase free. Guppies are regarded to be thiaminase free, and others. Or if you just offer some healthy goldfish as a treat once in a while, and that will work too. Oh, Cullen, you got some monkai from your Philoskia muscorum. Awesome. Yeah, people don't always keep them in the hobby. They're not terribly common, but the fact that you bred them is awesome. That's not the most easy species to breed, so congratulations on that. Never kept that species myself. I don't have permits for it, and it doesn't occur in my state, to my knowledge, so I don't have any. But have read a bit about that species. Okay, sorry, I know it looks like I'm just shoving everybody back in the enclosure, which I kind of am doing. I'm trying to do it gently because they're so excited about food. They smell the worms, they smell the pinkies, they want to eat. So in just a minute, I'm going to have to give them a snack, another snack. They're very hungry. So, and CS, oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad that the channel has helped you learn too. That's great. And Eileen, that's very likely. A lot of times the states have things that are, they'll have specific different laws. But as far as I know, the San Francisco garter snake is not legal to be kept as a pet anywhere, but I could be wrong about that. But as far as I know, there aren't many laws against the California garters, but there might be like state laws against it or something in California, not sure. Okay, and Eileen, thank you for looking that up. That sounds like the species I was thinking about. Yep. The Stemnosocertalis tetrataneo, which is the same species as this garter, but just a different subspecies, like the California garter, same species, different subspecies. Very variable species. Lots of different subspecies. And Hippie Griff, getting your own this weekend. That is awesome. And Scientia Azier, your Egestrae bred after 3 weeks? That's awesome. That's not too common. You must have gotten fairly large ones. So handle as do the Armadillidae maculatum spot and stripe have the same mentality and boldness? They seem to. I have some of both in my colony, and the stripes are a little more common, but I have the spots, and they seem to just act exactly the same as far as I can tell. No difference. Yeah, Cody, sometimes I wish I could do that too. That's another species I'm not allowed, no, another taxon I'm not allowed to keep at all, is any kind of roaches. I can keep crickets. My wife is not fond of them, but I'm allowed to keep them. I can keep mantids. My wife is fond of them, but I cannot keep any kind of roaches. And sometimes I wish I could because they would be easier feeders than crickets in a lot of ways. So Ashley, yes, garter snakes are similar to ribbon snakes in that, as I believe, unless the taxonomy has changed since last I checked, they're actually in the same genus and can hybridize in some cases. So they're very closely related. Ribbon snakes are basically a type of garter. Yep. Very, very close. Oh, Cullen, that's interesting. Yeah, there are several species of isopods that will go into tonic immobility. Porcellio dilatatus, the giant Kenyans, being one of those. And it's interesting that Phyllosia mossorum, since I've never worked them, I wasn't aware of that. So that's cool that they do that as well. There you go. Oops, sorry, bumped right into the camera. I apologize for that. Well, I think it's just about time for me to go. If there's any other questions, toss them up there, and I'll do my best, and then I'll give these snakes a snack, and which I would do, on the camera, but I'd probably get in trouble if I do. So that's the only reason I wouldn't do it. I would warn people, of course, because some people aren't all about seeing snakes eat frozen thawed pinkies. Yeah, and I agree that roaches in general are better feeders than crickets in most ways. The only reason crickets are better for me is because my wife won't let me keep the roaches. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming in to the stream. Thank you to Sandy for the questions that they sent on Patreon. And thank you to everybody else for joining in as well with your questions here on the stream. Really appreciate it all. And answer a couple more questions here. So Daniel, both. I've had professional training with animals, and I've also self-taught. I started out being self-taught, did some professional training, and kept up with the self-teaching as well. And yeah, these garters, if you work with them when they're young, even if you don't, garters usually tame up. But when you work with them when they're young, they tame up even better. And I got these when they were captive bred and very tiny, much smaller than a pencil. So it's been fun to watch them grow up. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. And you're welcome to Ashley and Lucas and Evie and CS and everybody. So thank you, everybody, and have a great evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you with a new video on Friday.